Hello everybody, and many thanks for joining us at today's webinar. Today's webinar is to talk about the journey to HCM Cloud. Joining me today we have Jerry Seagar, who's our HCM practice lead. Jerry, just one quick say hello and introduction.
Hi Phil, thank you for that. Yep, so Jerry Seager, the HCM practice lead. I'm going to be taking you through some of the journey to the HCM cloud, plus a little demo of some of the system for you, so look forward to it.
Thanks, Jerry. So in terms of some logistics, obviously the webinar's set to last about 30 minutes. We will attempt to cover a number of areas which I'll run through in a minute. The idea is that they're informative. The idea is that they are about trying to share our experience and knowledge. Just in terms of my background, Phil Wilson, SVP at Inoapps, been here for over 10 years, and been in the market around ERP and HCM for quite a while. So I'll do the quick introductions, and then Jerry's going to talk about the subject matter for today, and I'll come back and close at the end. In terms of the actual tool we're using, if you have questions, depending on whether you've got a browser-based PC or you're using a tablet, you'll find a menu bar at the top for tablets and a menu bar on the right-hand side where you can go in and ask questions, and those questions will come through to the organisers or any of the panelists, and we'll try and answer the questions as we go through. If we don't have chance and run out of time, then we will follow up afterwards with answers to people. The webinar has also been recorded, so again we'll forward to yourselves or anybody that's registered a link to the recorded webinar, which please feel free to share with your colleagues or watch again or whatever. In terms of the series, so today we're going to talk about the journey to HCM Cloud. In the next one, we're going to talk about talent management in terms of how you attract, retain, and develop the best people in your organisation. Then planning the workforce and think about the future and think about talent acquisition type tools. Then attract and retain staff with workforce rewards or benefits, compensation benefits cloud. Your HR challenges with reporting, dashboards and analytics, which comes towards the end. But that's actually one of the most popular sessions we run. And it's all about how you actually report data out in the system, how you actually make use of all the good data that you've captured through a deployment of a cloud-based solution. And then finally, we're going to talk about moving to Oracle Payroll Cloud, quick how-to guide. So for today's demonstration, today's presentation, we're going to talk about Journey to Cloud, talk about why people are doing it, explain some of the background, explain some of the things that you as an organisation are probably thinking about. Then, as Jerry mentioned, he's going to go through a demonstration which should give you an idea of look and feel that Oracle Cloud HCM's got. And then if we've got time, we'll come back and do Q&A, and I'll do a quick wrap-up at the end. So I'm going to hand over now to Jerry, and he'll take you through the presentation.
Thank you very much for that, Phil. As Phil mentioned, I'm going to be taking you through this journey today. So let's start off. So let's go to the next slide. So broken it down into a few different sections. Why, when, what, who, and how as part of that journey to the cloud. I'm going to try and give you some insights into my experience, having led a number of cloud implementations now, but also been on the journey at different parts with a lot of our different customers. So hopefully I'll try to bring some insight in as we go through this as well. So the why. So next slide, please. So, why should I be thinking of moving to the cloud? I guess the conversation has changed over the last few years. There's been a lot of, is the cloud right for me? Is it something that I should be looking at? I think people have moved past that now. I think we are now on it's almost a when as opposed to an if. But I brought out a few points that sort of resonates with some of our customers and resonate with me. So it's about bringing agility and efficiency to support your growth. So again, the technology that you're getting from the cloud is delivered a lot more rapidly. It's developed and enhanced quicker, and therefore what it can allow you to do is work more agile and more efficient as an organization. Leveraging technology to be more efficient and focused on value-add tasks. So again, kind of trying to focus on the things that are important to you as an organization, but at a very high level, not getting down into the weeds, working on the 80-20 rule of 80% of organizations fit to one sort of standard, and let's sort of focus on those as an organization. New ways of working, so working models. We've got quite a broad spectrum of society now involved in the workforce. I think people say 5 generations at least, all in the workplace, and the expectations of Gen Y to baby boomers is completely different, and therefore we need technology and we need solutions that align to all of those expectations, not just the Gen Y expectations, but also the baby boomers and the millennials and other groups as well. So it's about the expectations that they have. Getting the best out of latest generation of HCM with minimal change effort. So in our experience, it's about implementing cloud solutions. It's about fitting to a standard. It's not about creating your own bespoke solutions, creating things that 100% meet your specific requirements. It's about sort of elevating ourselves up and sort of looking at how organizations do things generally, and sort of aligning to that, and then putting our efforts into the things that are important to us, our USP, and what make us different, what we're trying to sell. Automating upgrades. From the perspective of cloud, you're always on the latest version of the software. Traditional solutions, we could say that as soon as an implementation has been completed, that was as good as it was going to get, and then we start to move away from the implementers. We start to the knowledge that we acquired within the implementation, it starts to be lost. People move on, and therefore, and perhaps we don't constantly upgrade the system, therefore perhaps we're at the best it could be when we implemented it. Whereas in cloud, we're always going to be getting upgrades, we're always going to be evolving and developing a new solution, and therefore we're always going to be hopefully the best of breed in terms of the technology footprint that we're taking. Obviously there's the costs, so reducing capital expenditure, focusing on strategic things, and lastly there's the R&D innovation. So again, being at the forefront of technology, letting the vendor, letting Oracle go off and develop and put their research and development funds into what is the best of breed in terms of talent management or talent acquisition or workforce modeling, for example, and we can leverage that because they're going away and developing that in and giving us those solutions quite quickly. So next slide, please. So when is it the right time for us to go to the cloud? So again, it could be a variety of different things. It could be when our current solutions are becoming end of life. It could be when they're not allowing us to have that strategic insight into our business. So we're looking at a world now that is being faced by many challenges. The challenge with retaining and attracting new talent, for example. Do our tools allow us to be able to look at that, to put together business cases to acquire or maintain the talent that we have? So it's kind of where we have perhaps in our business a lack of insight, within our business. Where we have a lack of connection to our workforce. So again, multi generations in the workforce now. It's an expectation now of Generation Y to actually connect with people to both at a business and a social perspective. Therefore, getting tools that allow us to do that obviously allow us to motivate, develop our teams and our people better. when our system perhaps is just names and addresses, you know, so who out there have a system or a group of spreadsheets that literally perhaps pays, supports our payroll, but then gives us little more insight than the name of an address of the people that actually work for us. So it's where we don't have, you know, the ability to support our business because we just don't have the information that's ready there in a way that allows us to sort of help the organisation make decisions. And also, just worth flagging though, you also need to be ready to change as well. Moving to the technology platform, moving to cloud is not just a technology solution, it's a way of being. There's a lot of change management that's required around it. There's a framework that's required to ensure that you are able to consume that constant innovation, and that means being in a way and having a structure that supports not just a one-time project but supports that constant innovation. Perhaps you do that as an organization, perhaps that's how you sell your business and services, but what we need to do is we need to also make sure that we can, as a project and as a consumer of Oracle Cloud Solutions, we need to have a framework to actually sort of bring that on board and constantly take on board those opportunities. So the next slide, just move through that. So can we go to the next slide, please? So what are my choices? We have a number of choices in the cloud, and I've just pulled out the three typical choices that we have there. In the blue, we have that public cloud, which is where most of us sit, most of us reside. We have our infrastructure, our service, supported by Oracle in one of their 19-20 data centers across the globe. Then that's called a public cloud. That has a certain cadence of upgrades, those come through at a regular periods throughout the year. We also have monthly patch bundles that actually come through to us as well. So within a given window of time, and some of it is flexible, we're always going to be on that latest version. We also have the concept of a private cloud as well. So perhaps if your organization is a larger organization, has more complex integrations, perhaps has, you know, is very risk averse for taking advantage of those constant upgrades, we can go to what's called a private cloud, which gives us a bit more control in terms of what we can actually do and how we might want to enjoy those next upgrades, for example. And then we have lastly the sort of third sort of choice we have is a hybrid choice, and that typically is a dipping our toe in the water scenario where I'm looking to not necessarily go fully to the cloud at the moment. I perhaps have my payroll solutions already for working fine. I have my core HR system perhaps. I'm quite happy with what that's given me at the moment. It is more than perhaps just the names and addresses, but what I also want is I want to have some of that rich talent insight, for example, some of that predictive analytics that Oracle gives us. And by implementing a hybrid model, we can actually procure some of those talent modules or talent acquisition modules, connect them to our system of record, which may be on a legacy solution, maybe on Oracle EBS, for example, and then I can actually start to enjoy some of the value around those additional modules. Typically, again, as I mentioned, it was probably going to be a stepping stone, so it would be a hybrid model for perhaps 1 or 2 years as we start to see the value that comes from the solutions that we've got, and then we may well then move all of our solutions into the cloud, be they just HCM, but of course, we may want to then move into the ERP world and bring those in as well, and other types of Oracle Sales Clouds and things like that. So I'll just move on to the next slide. So in terms of the footprint, a very broad footprint of solutions, you know, a complete end-to-end set of solutions, including the acquisition side of things, all the way through to career development, succession planning, learning and development. But as I mentioned, there's also now the predictive analytics solutions out there, and well-being as well. So as mentioned there, the work-life solution, so getting that balance between what we do in our working life but what we do in our personal life, and actually starting to use and that to help inform us and make better decisions, perhaps provide better employee benefits, motivate our employees better, and just do things like retain that talent a lot better. So next slide. So how do we do that? So again, not rocket science, I think, in terms of you know, what we're going to do in terms of putting together our cloud strategy. It is around, I guess if I pull out a couple of things out there, is rapid versus realistic implementation plans. So a lot of you on the line may be already through your implementations, maybe partway through them, or maybe thinking of going to the cloud. And I think it's about setting a realistic implementation plan, saying, you know, typically I as an SI, as an implementer, can actually implement the solutions a lot quicker than you can, sort of consume it, as it were. And therefore, one of the keys is actually making sure that, you know, it aligns to how quickly you can change and transform your business, how quickly your organization consume the new technology. So if we talk just simply self-service, we're going from a model where your organization doesn't have self-service to then pushing that out and allowing employees and managers to self-serve, not only managing their personal details, but managing absence, even down to managing talent and managing even resignations and things like that. You know, we have the capability to be able to do that within Oracle HCM Cloud, and therefore I guess it's about ensuring that not only the technology part of your implementation plan is very robust, but also making sure that the change, the transformation, the user adoption parts of the plan are also you know, in there, and you know, an important part of you know, how you're going to go to get to the cloud. We also have things around the preparation. So again, we talk to our customers and we share with our customers information about how they can prepare themselves. So, you know, making sure that my policies and my procedures are up to date, making sure that my my global structure is sound. You know, perhaps my grades are consistent across the globe, perhaps my compensation is consistent or within the same sort of grade ranges. On a talent perspective, making sure that I also have competency frameworks set up, and I perhaps also understand what my performance cycles are going to be, my preparation plans are going to be, and things like that. So there's a lot of work we can actually do to prepare ourselves for the cloud, but then once we are prepared and are ready to start that implementation, we should also, as I say, be confident and put a plan that actually doesn't just take into account technology. You know, so I think that's important as well. So next slide, please, Phil. So the implementation approach, kind of as I just sort of put on there, you know, we have, you know, an initiation and design, a prototyping phase. When we're in the cloud, we're not talking about doing a sort of an as-is and to-be. We're actually doing we are taking Oracle's best practice. We're taking that configuration that has been created from thousands of employees and thousands of organizations that run HR, and we're taking that design and we're trying to challenge ourselves as to why it won't meet our needs. So we go through an initiation phase where we actually fill out lots of questionnaires, lots of workbooks. We then do a prototyping session where we'll show you what the solution will look like, and as I say, we'll go through that challenge process. Then we have our traditional, more formal testing, which by the acronym there, UAT, User Acceptance Testing, which allows us to go through our scenarios, or allows you to go through your scenarios, just ensuring that it does actually support your full business requirements. It delivers exactly what you need it to deliver, such as paying people correctly, for example. And then lastly, you have your two activities at the end, the deployment. So how do I actually then get this solution into service, building cutover plans around that, and then the running of that service. And the running of that service, as I say, maybe something that you would use a service wrapper from an organisation like ours, where we continually support you through the ongoing evolution of that solution, support you through the ongoing development of the solution. As Oracle continues to develop the solution, we will support you in that, challenging you, highlighting new opportunities for you, and just generally adding value perhaps to your organization. As always, you have the reporting, integration and data migration stream. Data migration, always a big scenario and always something we need to be fully aware of and think thoroughly through at the start of the project. You know, put that challenge as to whether or not we even want to bring historic data into our cloud anyway, and do we actually just want to start with fresh data and perhaps look back at the legacy data, perhaps on a nearline or an offline system if possible. And as at the bottom of that screen there, we've also got the change management piece that again runs all the way through our projects. So next screen, Phil. So you should see, yeah, so we've got each of those activities then broken down into more of an agile approach. So the cloud is about doing things quickly. Again, quickly with that caveat that you need to be ready to receive it as well. So making sure that, you know, if I'm going to implement core absence, talent management, perhaps recruitment as well, you know, what are the critical things I need to get? I need to get my system of record perhaps in place first of all. So perhaps my first phase of my project might be the implementation of core HR, perhaps with self-service switched on. Our next phase of that might be that then I'm going to enrich it with some absence and perhaps some talent acquisition, so the onboarding and recruitment activities. And again, it would be for you and your SI perhaps that will work through what does good look like, what does a proper timeline look like to give you the appropriate amount of testing and resilience, but also ensuring that you do get value add quickly and you do get in return on your investment as quickly as possible. So we have that traditional approach. We then stage our rollouts, and then as it highlights there, we have an ongoing enhancement and development activity that should just go forever really. Should just be looking at, you know, for as long as we have our license, as long as we have our contract, then we're looking to actually continually enhance and develop. And I personally have spent a lot of time with some of our customers that are at the end of their traditional implementation life cycle at the moment, and we've been going in now talking to them about their process maps, talking about, you know, where they are on their journey, and now looking at how we can enhance and optimize the solution and continue to get good value from where they are at the moment. So next slide please, Phil. So now I'm going to switch into a system demo, so hopefully pull out a few interesting sort of facts for you, some areas where you may or may not have seen already, and just sort of go through a few of the options that are there for you at the moment. So this demonstration, so this is demonstrating on release 12 of Oracle HCM Cloud. So I'm logged into a demonstration environment, so we have everything switched on in here. We don't only have our HCM set of options, as you can see here, but we also do have things such as purchasing as well. This is a common landing page, common springboard for us as employees to access and managers to access, and depending on what access we have to the system, then we'll get granted that, and it may be represented by icons, or we may have to access that functionality via the navigator. So on the left hand side we have a social panel. So this panel here allows us to push information to people. It also provides us with information about what's going on in our organization relevant to me, for example. So I have some social news, for example, that's being pushed to me, so employee news that may represent things such as a benefits election window being open. It may also be something like an office being shut down for a period of time and notifying people based on their location, for example, some information to them. It also indicates to me specific things such as flags, so highlights that have happened to me. They could be notifications, so FYIs, they could be approval requests, they could be general communication that's going to me. We also have here, so again we have some functions in here that are related to financial, so some collection functions that have come through. I also have some learning items, goals and talent review. So again, if I click on any of those, that will take me out to a hyperlink and actually show me some more information about an activity that I might need to perform. But what I thought might be useful is actually to look at what the solution would look like for me from day one. So if we are going to do it in that sort of staggered approach, what would the system typically look like for me? So if I go into the About Me, so as you can guess, that's kind of the area where I'm looking at things as an employee. I'm now self-serving. I'm logged in as a person called Richard McIntyre. So if I look in the top right-hand corner, I can see that's who I'm logged in as. I've got given access to the system based on where I am in the organisation and what role I perform, so what job I do. The system has been configured to give me access to different security, so different data, but also different actions as well. So, but I'm going to look at it from an employee perspective at the moment. So if I go into personal information and I click on this icon here, I should then be presented with some information around myself as an individual, just hiding something on my screen at the moment. Now, typically this may have been brought in through the onboarding process, through talent acquisition, if we'd implemented it at that stage. But again, this may be where I'm just capturing my names and addresses. This could be, day one. This is what we're doing in our implementation. As we can see, we've got lots of contact information on there. We have our unique email address, which in most instances is always our logon as well. We have over here our biographical information. We have some personal contact information that's in the system. And then we have some other information that we can capture as well, such as disability information. I've also got stored on here some documents. These are called documents of record. So these can be actual physical documents that may have been copied in as PDFs, and they're stored alongside my record. This isn't a document management system, but it can provide us with access to lots of documents, and we can attach to those expiry dates, approvals. We can make sure that, therefore, if a citizenship or a passport expires or a visa and permit is required to work within our organisation, I can put expiry dates on that and therefore make sure that I actually go away and get that information quickly in a timely fashion. I can edit that information as well. So as the employee, I can go into the system and I can actually press this button here and I can actually edit that information, and I can edit all of the information that's there. If we go through the system here, I also have access to benefits, I have access to payroll, I have access to compensation, I also have access to what's called my employment details, and I wanted to just quickly click into there, which gives us, again, another quick snapshot for myself as an employee to see some information about my career at the organisation. So when was I hired? How many years have I worked at the organisation? Again, they may be different if I've been perhaps tupied in from a different organisation. When was my last salary change? Perhaps an important thing to have as part of my performance review. Starting to think about, should I be having a new salary review? And what happened in terms of my last promotion as well? So, I haven't been promoted for 4.5 years. So what is that? What is that timeline? I also have in the bottom section a pictorial view of that as well, so I can actually see and scroll through the system and see when those activities happen and when those actions happened. In here I have related links, so I can do a comparison. So I perhaps, and again, perhaps you might want to hide some of these as part of an initial phase of project, but I can compare perhaps some of this information against my peers. I can compare it against some of the other jobs perhaps that I'm interested in, or similar grades and things like that. I can also take the submit resignation, and a lot of our customers get worried about an action like that being on the system. But if we think about it, your employees decide to resign or not, based on information that they have access to. This doesn't start the activity. It just, it does start the activity, but what it does do is it kind of has workflow built into it, and obviously all approvals and things like that. So there's one other area that I wanted to show you as well before we sort of get back from the demo. So this is sort of what day one can look like for you. You've got your self-service screen. You've got your you've got your ability to be update and maintain your information. And then the last place I wanted to look was just at our directory as well. So typically organizations that I've sort of worked with don't always have access to an up-to-date directory and organization chart. And what this does give us is an organization chart that's built real time. I'm also just tapping in there rather than just going to the organization chart straight away. I was also just showing you that you can actually search on additional information as well. So not only I'm looking for where I sit in an organization, I can also use it to actually search for people with particular skills, competencies, worked in particular roles and jobs and things like that. So it's a very, very powerful tool that we can use to actually look at people across our organization. And before we come out of this demo, that's the organization chart. So that actually allows us to look at people. It also allows us to see where individuals are. It see where an individual has direct reports and other pieces of information at a pretty much a quick glance. It tells us where we have individuals in succession plans as well, which can be very useful. And then just before I click out of this demo, we also have the ability to be able to, from the organization chart, so it doesn't matter what we've searched on, I can also then take actions. So I can look at absence, best fit, compensation, personal employment, etc. I can actually take activities. So I'd just like to end that demonstration there then. So that could be what day one looks like for us. So as you see, hopefully you can see that there's a lot to be gained just from implementing just the foundational piece of the system. So we'd like to switch back to the slides, and I think Phil's going to take over from here. So,
indeed, thanks, Jerry. Always good to get a live demonstration of a system. And just to say, the plan is obviously to include live demonstrations in as many sessions as possible over the coming series of webinars, and also we're going to start to do snippets of functionality as a separate webinar. So we'll do a flow as a whole webinar of system functionality that again we'll record and publish via our sharing network, which you'll get details of a bit later on. So I guess we've spoken about the journeys cloud, spoken about the why, the what, the how. You've seen the system. I guess one of the other things we just want to touch on is obviously we think it's very important to think about the who as well. So obviously we've now worked in the market for many years, so where we've seen projects succeed, and this is not just with us, this is with other partners as well, is around having shared values. So it's a partnership. You're working together in unison and have shared responsibility, shared resources. Obviously, it's very important in those scenarios to have clarity on who's responsible for what, but when that's all done properly, that's where you get the most successful projects. Obviously, find someone that's got proven experience, whether that's in your sector because you've got some sector IP that you need someone to bring to the table, or if it's somebody that has done a similar project or whatever. Make sure they understand the whole end-to-end piece, so not just somebody that knows one part of HCM or just HCM if you're looking to do a multi-pillar, so if you're doing HCM and ERP and an extension in platform as a service. The other thing is obviously, it's one of the things that Inoapps offer is the try before you buy. So we do some work looking at how we do what we call Sprint, which is our approach to implementations, and again there'll be a separate session run on Sprint. In terms of who we are, just to wrap up really, so Inoapps are a global organisation, 300 plus staff, only do Oracle, one of the early adopters of cloud in terms of both internally implemented it within our organisation, but also obviously have now done numerous cloud implementations, so probably quite a lot of experience compared to other partners in the market space. 3 key regions. UK and EMEA is where the business was set up, offices across the UK. Then we set up an offshore remote delivery centre in Kuala Lumpur, an office now in Singapore, where we now have dedicated staff doing project work and support work in that region, but serving the other regions. So they do work on behalf of US projects and UK projects to allow us to take advantage of some of the cost benefits of that. And then an operation in the US which has now been going for about 3.5 years. So strong, able to do 24/7, able to do remote delivery, and also we only do Oracle, and we know every pillar. So we do Hyperion EPM, we do ERP, we do the technology side of things, we do ERP, we do sales cloud and marketing cloud, and also we're well recognized in the community for our contributions. So we are currently amongst many awards, we are currently the 2016 Specialized Partner of the Year for SaaS for globally, which is an award that's voted for by an independent panel, so I'm very proud of that. So in terms of what's coming next, I mentioned this was the first in the series, so we've just done Journey. Next one will be around talent management, how to attract, retain and develop. Then thinking about more, again, planning your workforce with talent acquisition tools, attract and retain staff with workforce rewards or compensation benefits. Some people recognise it. Your HR challenges, reporting, dashboards and analytics. And then finally a session on moving to cloud payroll. We've run over slightly, so I haven't. We've had a few questions, and we'll put them into the emails that come out afterwards. In terms of the whole idea, again, is to run these webinars, share them, record them, use our social media to share what's going on, and you know, get people more aware of what's happening in the marketplace. If you need to contact us or have any more questions that you've not been able to raise or want to raise something specifically, then please feel free to email myself, which is phil.wilson@inoapps.com, as on the screen now, or jerry.seeger@inoapps.com. Obviously, I'd like to take the chance to thank Jerry very much for what was excellent content and an online demo. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you, Phil.
And I wish you all a good day, and see you all again soon. Cheers then. Thanks.
Thank you.